Now let me introduce the guy who has folks say to me, Mayor, being mayor of a big city is really, really tough. It has its moments, but I would suggest that the toughest job in the United States of America, and certainly here in Philadelphia, is to be the superintendent of schools in our city. Our friend, our partner, a person who truly cares about children. All of our children, not only the ones in the Philadelphia School District, but kids all across the city and the region. The Superintendent of Schools here in Philadelphia, Dr. William Hite. Doc?
Thank you. Thank you and good morning. And it's interesting now when I hear someone say the toughest job in the city, I just start moving towards the stage. People... Hey, it is what it is, right? Hey, so we want our students to be adequately prepared for not just for post-secondary education, but be prepared for workplace after graduation. Having STEM competencies and becoming increasingly important for workers, both within and outside specific STEM occupations, then becomes extremely important. Dr. Pitts, I appreciated your comments earlier today because it is that exposure and access that provides students with the ability to think beyond their respective circumstance, which means that if they're living in a certain part of the city and they will never see a certain role, it's very important for that exposure and that access and that opportunity. I remember in another school district just outside of DC when we were working with NASA Goddard, and then therefore we were working with all of the contractors that they worked with. And one contractor was Aerojet. And Aerojet does a lot of jet propulsion, rocket launching things. And we were talking, Danielle Dickey is my chief of academic supports, but I was with my academic chief there. And we were with the representatives from Aerojet, and they said, we want to provide the students with an experience to see how we actually launch rockets. And we want to take them to our facility in Virginia and show them. And the chief academic officer said, well, we'd be glad to bring all of our high school students. And the individuals from Aerojet said, we want your second graders. We want your second graders, not just your high schoolers. We want your second graders because then they can see themselves in this role. And I think as we think about mentoring and providing children with opportunity to see beyond their respective circumstances, that's really important. And so I'm thrilled to be a part and enthusiastically support the Us2020 initiative in Philadelphia. The mentoring aspect will enhance our students' educational experience. We are a strong proponent of STEM education, as evidenced by a 2-year partnership with the Philadelphia Education Fund and Drexel's College of Education. I think it's also really important to say the target student population for Us2020 is low income, traditionally underrepresented, and female, which mirrors the district's demographics. And I think it's also important to understand that we're trying to do our part as a district, even faced with many of the fiscal challenges that we have. You will hear from Chris Lehman, who is at Science Leadership Academy. The work that they do at that school is superior, and it's why we created a second campus last year. In addition, you may have read recently where Carver Engineering and Science is going to be accepting middle school students from the respective area there in North Philadelphia so that we can provide children with more of those opportunities. So it's critically important, but in addition, our young people need mentors and role models and individuals who will help them see the possibilities beyond their circumstance. Once again, we're thrilled on behalf of the School District of Philadelphia to be included, celebrate and salute, and enthusiastically support the Us2020 initiative here in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Again, I cannot overemphasize the importance of relationships. And when we talk about Saint-Gobain and Certainteed and these companies who have been around for hundreds of years and great presence in Philadelphia, we also, of course, have to talk about GlaxoSmithKline. Glaxo, with different name changes over time, has been in Philadelphia for over 100 years. And this partnership and relationship has been longstanding. They now, of course, are not only headquartered in Philadelphia, but the global headquarters in London in the UK. Last November, when we took a delegation from Philadelphia to the UK and to Israel, had the opportunity to meet with the chair of the board of GSK, again, to talk about the importance of the work they do here in Philadelphia, the impact that the move from Center City to the Navy Yard, an $80 million LEED double platinum certified building that was created, revolutionizing the way office space is laid out all across, I believe, not only the United States of America, but will transform what offices look like around the world. That partnership results in the opportunity for us to stay connected to GSK in this partnership and relationship and understanding all of the national and international implications. And so with that in mind, let us have Michael Fleming, Head of Corporate Engagement for GSK, come to the podium. Michael?
Thank you. I'm not sure what there is left to say after that those wonderful comments, Mr. Mayor. GSK does have a very proud history here in Philadelphia. Our heritage doesn't go back quite as far as our friends at Saint-Gobain. That was a fantastic story this morning to learn about your heritage and your beginnings. GSK started in Old City, Philadelphia in the 1830s, a pharmacist named John Smith. And of course, we have been delighted to call Philadelphia our home ever since then, under many different names. Sometimes they're a mouthful, so we invite you to call us GSK. I think that's probably the simplest way to approach it. But beyond our fantastic new building, LEED Platinum certified, as the mayor said, at the Navy Yard, we actually have several thousand scientists in the area, some of whom are up in Collegeville area. And our scientists are absolutely passionate about getting people excited about the sciences and sharing their passions with students, Dr. Pitts. And for us, it's actually, frankly, a matter of resources to best and most effectively direct all those fantastic scientists to get involved in mentoring programs. So for us, the 2020 program is a fantastic catalyst, and we couldn't be more proud to join with companies like IBM and Saint-Germain and to work with Dr. Haidt and everybody in the district and Darren Spielman and the Math and Science Coalition. For us, this is just an extraordinary opportunity. So we are so pleased to be a part of it and look forward to making it rock onto 2020. Thank you very much.
And so with that, I have one more announcement to make. IBM has been just an incredible partner with the City of Philadelphia in the past through our Smarter Cities program, and they're once again stepping up to support the City of Philadelphia, but more importantly, young people here in our city. IBM has awarded the city a Strategic Planning Impact Grant to help develop a citywide blueprint for STEM education and workforce development, encompassing the in-school work of the Math and Science Coalition and the out-of-school time mentoring efforts of the Us2020 Phl STEM initiative. Simply put, in this city, there are countless organizations and individuals invested in expanding STEM learning opportunities in Philadelphia for young people and adults. But despite the shared goal, many of these folks are working often in silos, unaware of other initiatives, or worse, even unsure as to how to connect them all together. Our hope in creating this comprehensive plan for STEM in Philadelphia is to take these important but sometimes disparate efforts, link them together, and building a collective impact strategy for the STEM community. And so with that in mind, let me ask Diane Melly to come up to the podium to talk more about this process. Diane?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. IBM is thrilled to be part of this initiative as well. And I think in a nutshell, Dr. Pitts hit it on the head. We want Philadelphia to be a science and STEM city. So the opportunity in supporting this initiative with this grant really does give us the opportunity as a city to look at all the incredible assets that we have in the universities, that we have in business, and bring them together in a unified plan where we set very aggressive goals to give our children opportunity for careers and better lives by being engaged in science, technology, engineering, and math. So IBM's thrilled to be part of this. We recognize this not just as a philanthropic effort. It really is the responsibility of business and good business to engage and give children opportunities to build that pipeline for our young people to have futures in science and technology. We support a program called PTech, and what that's doing in schools is giving children the opportunity to not just in any individual initiative, but in an integrated way, give children access to see what careers are in science and business, to have a mentor, to also have internships, and really connect all these things together. So Us2020 in Philadelphia really is an exciting opportunity to bring business to the table, demand that business be part of this, that we connect the wonderful opportunities in business to the wonderful world of academia here in Philadelphia so that children really can succeed. So thank you very much. We're thrilled to be part.
Let me also take a moment to thank Diane and her team for their great support of the efforts of many folks here in Philadelphia through the Digital On-Ramps program. This is also a program that my wife Lisa, through her leadership at Philadelphia Academies, actively engaged and involved with. And I think it's because Diane works so closely with my wife that she has never held it against me or made any issue of the fact that many years ago I used to work at Xerox, and she's just pushed that to the side, and IBM has always been supportive, and for that we need to thank Lisa. Across the country and right here in Philadelphia, STEM-based jobs, the innovation economy, is growing at an unparalleled rate. Many fields are growing so fast that the workforce of the world hasn't been able to, and at the present time won't be able to keep up the pace. But if we connect a young person to a highly skilled and knowledgeable and caring adult in a STEM field, and I'm probably from this point forward going to continue to lobby for getting that A in there when we talk about STEM and STEAM. That'll be another discussion. We'll help that young person find their own path to the future. Philadelphia is a STEM city. It's also a science city with a strong foundation for STEM mentorship and a deep need for qualified STEM workers. Us2020 Phl will help us realize our potential to build a dynamic STEM workforce in our city. If you'll allow me one last editorial comment, and then I have a resolution, and then we really are going to have the panel, so don't go anywhere. It's my vision going forward that we would create a STEM/STEAM collaborative center, much like the model that we see in West Philadelphia, the University City Sciences Center, a collaborative with almost every university in the region and other businesses and the private sector in a location, a physical space. Today we're talking about our online presence. At some point in time, we need to collaborate and have a ton of people in one location in this city, working together, working in partnership, and this is the kind of collaborative that I want to see going forward. Our universities, our colleges, our private sector, our partners in philanthropy, government, and certainly the education K-12 space, all in one location, working in partnership, creating the kind of collaborative that breaks down silos and has people understand that Philadelphia is, in fact, a science city, and that's really what this is all about. And so I have a proclamation about our efforts today. It is tremendously well written. It is very long. I stay up late into the night working on these kinds of events, which of course you know is not true at all. But I'll give you the one little part that is really important. On September 15, 2014, at the Hall of Flags at the University of Pennsylvania, Us2020 Phl, a growing coalition of over 125 representative organizations focused on increasing access to STEM careers for diverse students, hosts the first gathering of STEM stakeholders and sets the stage for expanding STEM programming with the launch of the high-impact STEM mentoring in Philadelphia. Therefore, I, Michael A. Nutter, Mayor of the City of Philadelphia, do hereby proclaim Monday, September 15, 2014, to be STEM Mentoring Day in Philadelphia, and urge all of our citizens to be aware of the critical importance of preparing the youth of Philadelphia for the expanded opportunities that await them in STEM careers here and abroad. We commend the US2020 Phl Coalition members and leaders for supporting this initiative and for their dedication to STEM mentoring to enhance the development of our most precious asset, our children. Signed by me as the Mayor of the City of Philadelphia, this is an official document of our great city. Congratulations, Philadelphia. Thank you all for staying, and appreciate your flexibility. Give me that question again.
Of course. So policy leaders, school administrators, business leaders, who needs to take the next big step for STEM, and what is that step?
Well, I mean, this is one of these situations where everyone has a role to play in this work. There's no one entity. It's not, well, the city's going to do it, or a college or university should do it, or this one should do it, or that one should do it, or a company should do it, or, this is not one where we get to just point fingers, kind of like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. This is an everyone all in, hands on deck kind of situation. And we're seeing, as I mentioned earlier in my off the script comments, which always throw my folks, we see a lot of people doing a lot of things, which is very, very important. I think we're at a point where we really have to connect it all together. 15 people doing 15 separate things is 15 different people doing 15 separate things. And it's not that everyone has to be doing the same thing all at the same time, but I think that it's about collaboration. And we would be so much farther along, we'd be so much greater if there was more of that collaboration, because there will be efficiency, there'll be productivity, there'll be savings. You'll just get a lot more stuff done by breaking down those kinds of silos. And so I think the online piece that we announced today is a critical step. It's about trying to centralize much of the information. The matching aspect of this, the mentoring, which, if you allow me, and Dr. G and Giles G and her folks over at University of Sciences don't even know this, but I'm going to give you a very quick story about how I arrived to where I am today. When I was 13 years old, I got a job at Schneidman's Pharmacy at 56 in Larchwood. I grew up at 5519 Larchwood Avenue. Schneidman's Pharmacy was one of the centerpiece businesses in our neighborhood. If you got a job there, I mean, it was like, the young people will laugh, it was the bomb. So, it was like a big deal. That inspired me to have an interest, that much more, and our dean is here, engineering, in science. And so from there, I thought actually about being a pharmacist. At the time, the University of Sciences was the Philadelphia School of Pharmacy and Science, I believe the first pharmacy school.
First in North America.
First in North America. And so I was thinking in that direction. I subsequently decided that I actually wanted to be a doctor. I came to the University of Pennsylvania, admitted to the School of Engineering. I was a biomedical engineering major because I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to help people. Through that, although Chemistry 3 did change my life and pointed me in a different direction, ultimately graduating from the Wharton School, I got involved in politics because I wanted to help people. The late Councilman John C. Anderson was my mentor, much like Alan Schneidman was my mentor at the pharmacy. I got into politics. Councilman Anderson died. Bill Gray was a very important person in my life, in politics. Malcolm Pryor was a graduate of the Wharton MBA program, had an investment banking firm, and I went to work for him for some time. All of those mentors have helped to shape my life. And today, having grown up 20 blocks from the University of Pennsylvania, what do I get to do? I get to help people as the 98th mayor of the city of Philadelphia. Mentorship is critical. It leads you in a particular path. You use that background and things that you learn to go off in whatever direction you want to go off in. I had no idea that I would ever be mayor of Philadelphia. I just wanted to help people. And mentorship all throughout my life has led to where I am today. But it started with a job at 56 in Larchwood in a pharmacy. Now, I'm no great scientist, but I know how to figure things out.
Thank you, Mayor.
Industry needs to play a significant part in it, and we need to be organized enough in industry to basically facilitate the partnering with the students and some people in industry. So it's not as easy as it may seem that you just go to industry and a couple of people volunteer, and but it needs to be structure in industry as well. But we're only as good as the policymakers and the people in academics as well as also. So we all need to play an important part in it.
And I would argue that, and I think it's a huge strength of Philadelphia, all over our country we are seeing a crisis in education, and everybody talks about this. And oftentimes the solutions are things that are done to schools and done to children. And I think it's incredibly telling that here we have that this is being done in collaboration, and that everybody here has spoken about this. This is not a top-down, whether it's the mayor's office, whether it's industry saying, hey, schools, we know what you need, but rather a coming together of all of us who want to see our city create more opportunities for our kids, coming together with our kids. And they need to have a seat at the table too, and I'm thrilled that Jamira Burley is in the room from the Youth Commission, because I know how important they are, and I know that how important those students are to the mayor, and how he listens to them. That is what is needed for all of us, including the kids, to come together and talk about what is needed in education, in STEM education, in mentoring, in workplace opportunities, so that way we can do what is best. It has to be all voices with an equal share at that table, or this will be one more thing that is done to kids rather than with kids. And I think that's really important, and I'm thrilled to represent the education space today, the K-12 education space in this panel, and thank you for having me. We need partners in industry to walk in lockstep with the mayor, with Superintendent Height, with the principals, and with the parents and students who've been going to Harrisburg saying this doesn't get done without the funding to do it. We have lost at SLA due to the budget cuts. We had an extra science teacher who was able to teach more specialty science classes. We have lost our partnership coordinator who was helping to coordinate many of the mentorships that we have at our school. This stuff is expensive. And as long as if you go outside, if you cross City Line Avenue, over $170,000 more is spent on a child's K-12 education when you cross City Line Avenue than when you are on the Philadelphia side of City Line Avenue. It is the most anti-democratic policy in this country, is the way we fund urban ed, and our state is one of the worst. We need our partners in higher ed, in industry, to stand by our politicians, to stand with our educators, and demand that Harrisburg fully fund our schools in Philadelphia.
Get an amen on that.
Okay. Well, having come in here almost 2.5 years ago, one thing I can say is there are a lot of entities in Philadelphia that are dedicated to increasing STEM awareness and STEM performance of students. But what I've seen is that some of these efforts have not been sustainable for lack of funding, and some of these efforts have not been scalable as well. So we're not reaching as many students as possible. And particularly, they have not been dedicated to elevating the education of students in communities where this is much needed so these students would be successful. So what I'd like to see with the collaboration is the development of a real group that develops a strategic plan that has standards and accessibility and impact, that demonstrates that those activities that we do have meaning, that they move students from one level to another, and that would be documentation enough to show that we should sustain these programs. And this collaboration should be broad-based to include education, business, industry, government as a convening body, to make sure that we make our students really the focus of all we do. Because I think Dr. Pitts was right. We need to focus on education. It is that entity that will make our students succeed and the quality of life in our communities change. For bringing in businesses, they want to see very good schools and students that matter. I think that's where we focus, and I think Philadelphia is doing a great job first in the PSSA, the fact that you do have data to document where students are with regard to math and science. Start where they are and look to improve those scores. The second, I have to go nationally to a national coalition that's just been formed with associations of science, the American Chemical Society, the Society of Biology Teachers, computer sciences, numeracy, engineers, who have all come together to look at the types of curricula needed for students, not just for this century, but for the future. They're pulling it together at a national level to look and to match these standards at the local level with what these associations control teachers from K through 16 will be imperative to build into that system to make sure that our students are successful academically. They see role models who lead them to the places, and they are the foundations for the improvement of our communities.
Well, as they say, there's no time like the present. So the General Assembly returns today, and so as we talk about school funding here at the moment, of course, the huge fight is about the authorization we need to be able to get the cigarette tax in place, which is, a very small part of a much larger fight that needs to be fought, which is for full and fair funding. Pennsylvania is one of only 3 states in America that does not use a student-weighted funding formula to distribute education funds. That is about a pathway to the future, but it's also about investing in, again, as I mentioned, our greatest asset, which is our young people. Every business in this room, every business in this city, this state, and in America invests in their people. And the same has to be true for education. Investments in students is about investing in our own economy. Increasingly, as I talk to CEOs and chairs of companies who are thinking about expanding in Philadelphia, coming to Philadelphia, we have a great startup community in Philadelphia, increasingly, the first question is not, about tax structure or tax incentives or anything. And we get to those conversations. Increasingly, the first question is about what's going on with education. Will I have a qualified workforce? Where are my folks when I move them? We have the big conversation back at the big old plant or the factory or the big office building, and when the real decision is being made and folks are expressing their concerns about whatever they're concerned about, one of them is going to be, where am I going to send my kids to school? That's the conversation that's going on in business all across America. Now, we have one of the most incredible arrays of higher education institutions anywhere in the United States of America, possibly in the world, in this city and this region. The level of disconnect between what happens in the post-secondary educational environment and what's going on in K-12, and that doesn't even then get into even touch on universal pre-K, which is another area that desperately needs investment. I don't know why we don't have every third and fourth grader in a high-quality education program all across the city of Philadelphia, touching on every socioeconomic strata that there is. That's where you make the investment. You heard Dr. Haidt earlier, where folks said, well, we'd like to bring some of our students, we're bringing our high schoolers, and they said, well, that's really interesting, but could you bring some second graders? That's where you turn on the spark. That's where the light bulb starts to go on. That's where young people get excited about whatever it is that they're going to get excited about. It's investing in them. And that's what's going to grow your economy. A well-educated workforce is where employers want to be, because that is their future. And so we are hurting ourselves with these mindless, nonsensical, silly debates about whether or not we should invest in education, or can we do it, or can we afford to do it, or the economy is bad, whatever the case may be. You will only make it worse by cutting funding. By Science Leadership Academy, one of the best schools in the city of Philadelphia. Science Leadership Academy. How could they lose a science teacher? It's a fundamental core of their business. I mean, it would be like IBM not having machines. That's crazy. And so we're hurting ourselves. And so, again, I want to implore all of you, join in this fight. It's not just about the Philadelphia school system. Dozens and dozens and dozens of school systems all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are hurting in similar ways. We just happen to be in the fourth largest media market in the United States of America. So you're always going to hear more about what's happening in Philly as opposed to somewhere in the middle of the state. Well, they're hurting too. The entire Commonwealth is being hurt by this. And certainly lack of focus in the STEM and STEAM area, I believe, is damaging the economy of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and certainly the city of Philadelphia.
And so we've heard a lot today about exposing kids to STEM jobs and sort of how they find inspiration. So Derek Pitts being exposed to the steel workers, and Mayor Nutter being exposed to the pharmacy industry. So let's talk a little bit about that. I was curious, what's a process right now that's helping students get jobs, and how can we apply that to STEM?
Happy to talk about what we do at SLA with mentoring, since that seems a major focus that is such a major focus of today. We have to do a better job of understanding how to blend formal and informal learning. Schools shouldn't just be about the classroom. So at SLA, we have a 4-year pipeline that begins that process of exposing to kids to lifelong learning, when it starts at the Franklin Institute in the 9th grade, when our entire 9th grade goes to the Franklin Institute Wednesday afternoons, takes part in all kinds of amazing mini courses that are taught by either people at the Franklin Institute, including Derek Pitts, to resources that the Franklin brings to the table. Then in 10th and 11th grade, our students do what we call an individualized learning plan, where they are literally going out every Wednesday afternoon and working with, we have over 100 sites all over the city where our kids are taking part in amazing opportunities, whether they are in science fields, whether in the hospitals, whether actually they're acting as mentors to younger kids in elementary schools, whether they're on college campuses, and then in their senior year, they're doing a year-long capstone project where they are taking an inquiry project that is something they want to study. It does not have to be something out of a high school curriculum. It is really based on their passion and interest, and they are doing a year-long study of that, culminating in a project. Oftentimes we see an outgrowth from something they did at the Franklin to making them want to have an internship somewhere to that capstone experience. And why I'm so excited about what this initiative is that finding STEM mentoring is actually one of the tougher things that we have to do. We have so many kids who are interested in health sciences, so many kids who are interested in careers in engineering, and matching them with folks out there in the field is actually a very, very difficult thing. There aren't enough mentorships right now for the kids, or at least we're not coordinating those efforts enough to make sure that even among 250 kids across our 2 campuses, let alone all of the kids in Philadelphia, we have a hard enough time finding those resources, partnering those things. I'm so excited to see what STEMphilly.org becomes, STEMcityphilly.org becomes, because I think that'll make it easier to give kids a pathway, because we've seen how powerfully taking what you do in school, taking the hands-on, project-based, inquiry-driven learning that happens inside our campus, then translates to the outside world, to those experiences, then translates to the things they want to study and that they go on and do after they leave us.
I think we have certainly a model that we can utilize. We may not need to, in this particular case, reinvent the wheel. We have a tremendous partnership with Work Ready Philadelphia, the City of Philadelphia, Philadelphia Youth Network, and a number of other partners focused on summer jobs for young people in Philadelphia. And so this past couple of years, we've had 15, 18,000 or so young people express an interest in a summer job. We've only been able to provide 7,600 paid internships. Now, we think that obviously there are more young people working in Philadelphia than those 7,600. Those are the ones that we're involved with that we can account for. There are many other companies and organizations that have their own summer jobs programs. We're trying to do more collaboration with a bunch of folks around to make sure we're at least getting the count a lot more accurate. I think that model can be utilized particularly in the STEM area. Obviously, we need to know that there are internship, mentorship opportunities, and then match those students who have expressed that kind of interest or who are kind of thinking about it, may not know that much about it, and get them to those locales. And so, again, through this more collaborative process, through the online mentoring program that we announced today, I think that we'll be able, not only during the summer months, but even during the school year. I mean, some students, especially as they get older, I mean, after maybe 10th grade or so, I mean, you can really start to seriously look at an after-school work opportunity. 15 to 20 hours a week, something like that. Can't ever take away from what you're supposed to be doing, because their job is to be in high school. But that kind of exposure, I think, is tremendously important. And so one of the things that we'll try to do through the online piece is to encourage more and more companies that have those opportunities. Let us know about them. And I say to young people all the time, look, if you can get a job, fantastic. But we have tons of interns in all throughout city government. They're in high school. Sometimes it's also just about the exposure and the experience. It's building a resume. It's knowing what the world of work is like. I talk to young people all the time, and if any of you ever figure out how to truly excite a group of high school students, please let me know. They are the most challenging people to ever talk to, because it's all about the cool. Even when they're excited, they can't show it, and but then they talk amongst their friends. But yeah, right. I'm not that good at that. But finding out what their interests are and giving them that exposure and that opportunity, whether it's paid or not. Paid, obviously, always better, but that kind of experience, knowing, when you're 16 or 17 years old, you're not really thinking about the world of work. 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I'm hopefully trying to get to college, or I'm going to the military, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they don't understand that, 5 years from now, technically at least, you're actually going to be an adult. Right. You have decisions that you have to make. Mom and dad are not going to be calling you every day to wake you up. They're not going to be asking about homework. They're not going to be checking to see, did you pay your rent? I mean, those kinds of things. So helping them to better understand and having those kinds of interactions with positive adults in a workplace environment. What's the proper dress? How do you engage with people? You can't curse folks out. You can't be mad at your boss every day. I mean, it just kind of doesn't really work that way. So please let us know where there are those opportunities. We'll utilize this model and other opportunities.
I have to say that I know that a lot of people aren't even familiar with the University of the Sciences and where it's located. And the connection with the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, but we're right on Woodland Avenue. And so when you talk about seeking STEM mentors, we're there. In terms of the types of programs through the doctorate, cancer biology with Wistar, biochemistry, bioinformatics, you name it, we have it. Health sciences, doctorates in occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician's assistants. And when I look at the graduates on commencement day, I'm looking at 84% who already have jobs or are in graduate school. However, when we talk to the principals in our community, the students don't even know we exist. When we look at the number of students who come to us, we're small but powerful, but they come from 13 countries around the world, but not our own community. And because of that, we decided we would adopt all of the elementary schools in our neighborhood and make sure that they knew where we were. Thank you. And come to our institution, meet our students, do workshops in science, and we would work with the principals in equal partnership, developing right from scratch and say, what should we do to bring these students so that in 12 years they're in our institution? And so that's our goal. And we're starting with mentorship and lab workshops for the teachers as well as for the students. And following the cohort as they move forward is our goal. And so right now we're paying for this. But you talk about the need for resources to coordinate something that will be massive over time. It is something that we're seeking, but we know that this outcome is meaningful, is purposeful, and it benefits us as well as the students who are in our pipeline.
I look at this as like volunteering. A lot of people have well intentions to volunteer their time to the homeless or soup kitchens or wherever. But to me, the problem is how do you find those opportunities and how do you engage the people that actually want to engage in those opportunities? And so this program helps do that. It provides with the website, and in business we can garner a number of people that are willing to do this and link with people through the website, because we have an industry, a lot of folks that, yeah, they want to take care of their children primarily, but they want to also help others out in the community. And so this will help. I just want to give my story about how I got here. And I have a pretty important job in Certainteed in Saint-Gobain, and I've been through a lot of experiences in my life. But what started me along the path to get where I am today was in high school, I had a teacher that saw something in me that I didn't even know existed. And he pulled me to the side, and he would talk to me every day. And of course, I'm just like Mayor Nutter says, I'm engaged with my friends doing all the cool and neat stuff. But he saw in me something I didn't recognize. And I also had an ROTC teacher, instructor, that saw something in me that I didn't recognize either, which was, I guess, was natural leadership. So between the two of them and some guidance from my older brother, it led me down a STEM path, pushing me down a path that they knew that I could actually go, that I didn't even see in myself. And informally, I had these mentors. I didn't have a program. I didn't have anybody. My dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. So I didn't have a lot of family or anything like that around me. But in school, I had a few people that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, that pushed me down an avenue that led me to going to college, that led me to going to graduate school, that led me to going to the United States Army, and then eventually going into working for industry. So these programs actually work. Informally, they work, but they're so sporadic that they're not getting the masses. Formally, like this program, to link people that want to volunteer their time to have an impact, and actually being able to reach out to folks and actually people that they don't even know, that don't come from the same backgrounds, that they want to help, is very instrumental, and it'll definitely work, and it'll definitely help.